Hi-ho, Tudor-minded people. It's Philadelphia Carrie for Tudor Time Machine. The word I share with you this week is Hugy. Alloo! It pleases me to announce that my husband, Thomas, 10th Baron Scrope of Barton, shall receive the most noble order of the Garter from my dear mistress, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth. Oh, this is a most huge honour, and one which I have worked for on my husband's behalf for such an age. The Order of the Garter is the loftiest of all the chivalric orders of knighthood. It is granted for distinguished personal service to the Queen. Now, as Thomas never comes to court, preferring to hide away on his lands at Bolton, I well know that my dear Queen grants this honour to please moi and to reward my service. Oh, as a woman I cannot receive the order myself, but I shall reap the rewards for being the wife of he who wears the garter. My dear husband was not as pleased as he should have been at the news. In fact, he answered my letter of congratulation with a long grutching missive, full of laments that he must come to court to be knighted. Thomas is not a vigorous man. He's prone to complain if beckoned from backward Lancashire. It has fallen to me to promote his interests. Oh, yes, he is a drumble, with a mooncalf face and a faulty foot for dancing. Between you and I am quite content to live without my other half. I have done my duty. The marriage was arranged by our families. In our first year of wedded bliss, I produced a son and heir. Since that time I have rarely seen my good Baron Scrope. I have risen higher and higher in the ranks of ladies-in-waiting, and made my way at court with much profit. Thomas is free to haunt his northern estates, and I am free to... well, you know my amorous exploits, my dear Tudorphiles. Yes, I shall be quite pleased to stand beside Thomas as he receives the garter, and then wave to his retreating coach. I shall remain at court a free woman to strive in my husband's name for yet hugier preferments. Oh, I am a most virtuous wife indeed.
Hugy. How now, Tudorphiles? What think you? If you're new here, I'm Gage.
I'm Jessica.
And we're here with Philadelphia Carrie for Tudor Word of the Week.
Don't miss a word. And listen to the Tudor Time Machine Story Project, so diverting. And I pray bid you tell a ningle and ring the little YouTube bell.
Tudorphiles, thank you so much for listening. Every one of you has the wit of Rosalind and the heart of Cordelia.
And don't be shy about writing to Philadelphia on YouTube or suggesting words, because we love hearing from our listeners.
How do you spell our Tudor Word of the Week, Philadelphia?
It is spelled Hugy.
And in the Tudor period, it meant vast.
And clearly this word became huge, spelt with an E, somewhere along its linguistic journey.
And Philadelphia, I give you absolute credit for being a woman of huge ambition for yourself and your husband. Congratulations on the Order of the Garter, but I have to wonder, do you think your husband misses you?
Misses me indeed. Oh, not for a moment. He has his dear mother to keep him company. Better him than me, I say. But I only wish my dear husband felt the honour of this garter as he should.
Because he lives with his mother and is not a man of huge ambition?
Oh, alas, no. And huge ambition is a good thing. Though priests and poets will try to convince us otherwise, all know it is true.
In sermons and in plays, people who are very overly ambitious, they are always brought low. And it's hard not to think that maybe that's just because people want to keep the social order intact.
It's always more fun to watch the ambitious person crush everything down, and it's much more interesting to watch the journey than the comeuppance tends to be pretty short.
Yes.
The play our Tudor Word of the Week comes from is all about out-of-control ambition, in which, interestingly, there isn't a lot of comeuppance for the main character. The main character is Tamburlaine, and the play is Tamburlaine the Great by Christopher Marlowe, and it was probably written in 1587, 88. Marlowe's original inspiration for the play was a Central Asian emperor, Timur the Lame, hence Tamburlaine, and Timur the Lame died in 1405. So the real Timur was a warlord who rose to be the founder of the Timur dynasty. That is who he based it on.
But don't you think it must have been coming from the Ottoman Empire? Because they had such an influence at the time.
Probably, yeah.
And was he lame?
Apparently he was lame. The actual Timur was lame.
Interesting.
Tamburlaine in Marlowe's play is not lame.
Timur was considered one of the greatest military commanders and technicians in history of all time. And he was actually undefeated. He never lost a battle.
We talk a lot about Napoleon being a great military technician, but of course he lost a lot of battles. And I had never heard of Timur the Lame before Tamburlaine, so it's interesting. Marlowe decided not to make his Tamburlaine a Central Asian emperor, probably because he knew little about that part of the world. So he makes his Tamburlaine a Scythian shepherd who's just driven by this blind ambition. And Marlowe sets a lot of the action in Persia. Again, not because that was really where Timur the Lame was.
There's some speculation that he could have been related to Genghis Khan. But in this play, there's a lot of poetic references to the Greek and Roman pantheon. I think Marlowe just knew that culture and threw in the imagery he enjoyed or the metaphors he enjoyed. Timur the Lame was Muslim, and Tamburlaine is supposed to also be a Muslim. But he refers to the Greek gods way more than he refers to Allah. So I don't know if we would find this situation acceptable now, but that is how Marlowe
did it. Yeah, absolutely. Historical veracity wasn't requisite in Tudor drama. I would still say in a lot of historical things, it's not in our time period either, but there was certainly no idea that Muslim people should be depicted in a way that is consistent with what their beliefs would have been. And Tamburlaine wasn't judged on its accuracy by London crowds, so they were fine with whatever Marlowe came up with, because it was a huge hit on the public stage in London. I mean, some historians consider it actually the first really big public theater hit. Because remember, this is 1588, a decade before Shakespeare. What struck people was Marlowe's use of language and the intellectual complexity of the characters, because they weren't these sort of one-dimensional stock roles of earlier morality plays. In fact, it's kind of an anti-morality play because Tamburlaine doesn't have a comeuppance. Historians cite Marlowe as one of the first 16th century English playwrights to demonstrate the dramatic potential of blank verse.
And along with Thomas Kyd's play, The Spanish Tragedy, Tamburlaine set the tone of dramatic plays for the later Elizabethan and Jacobean plays, Shakespeare included.
Yeah, Shakespeare even makes snarky comments about Tamburlaine in some of his plays, as Ben Jonson did too, because Tamburlaine was such a huge hit. It was kind of like Star Wars, and everybody made references to it along the way they did with The Spanish Tragedy too, so it's kind of fun. Marlowe really develops Tamburlaine's character because you can kind of see what propels him. He tells you about himself. He's fiery and passionate. He's driven by ambition.
Tamburlaine himself is a really strong role. He has incredible speeches. Can you say one for us, Philadelphia?
Oh, with pleasure. Have you remembered that I am here? For you have not asked me many questions, but I shall read for you. Tamburlaine says, "The thirst of reign and sweetness of a crown that caused the eldest son of heavenly Ops to thrust his doting father from his chair and place himself in the imperial heaven moved me to manage arms against thy state. What better precedent than mighty Jove? Nature that framed us of 4 elements, warring within our breasts for regiment, doth teach us all to have aspiring minds. Our souls, whose faculties can comprehend the wondrous architecture of the world and measure every wandering planet's course, still climbing after knowledge infinite, and always moving as the restless spheres, will us to wear ourselves and never rest until we reach the ripest fruit of all, that perfect bliss and soul felicity, the sweet fruition of an earthly crown." How I do love the line, "Nature that framed us of 4 elements, warring within our breasts for regiment, doth teach us all to have aspiring minds."
I can tell you really enjoyed that speech, Philadelphia.
I did indeed.
Aspiring minds is a great phrase. But 16th century politicians did not want crowds of Londoners aspiring to power.
Oh, no, heaven forbid. They should leave their station. And then what would happen?
The play's popularity worried officials. And Marlowe, they tried to smear him by calling him an atheist because Tamburlaine doesn't humble himself to any god. He derides the Christian God, and in one scene, he burns the Quran in defiance of Allah, and he considers himself above all the gods. I mean, that would shock some people even now.
He is a man of Hugy hubris.
Yes, he is. All his foes are always trying to beat him. The Emperor of the Turks uses our word of the week to buoy up his allies against Tamburlaine in battle. He says, "Well said, my stout contributory kings. Your threefold army and my Hugy host shall swallow up these base-born Persians."
Oh, I did enjoy the play when I saw it. It was most wonderfully distressing when the despicable Tamburlaine captures the Emperor of the Turks and holds him in a cage to be tormented and shamed. The play was such a success that Marlowe wrote a second part,
in which Tamburlaine does even more horrible deeds. But I can't say he pays for them. Not like Macbeth does, or anyone in Shakespeare. They die horrible deaths, and their kingdoms are ruined, and their wives are dead. They're tragedies. They're very sad.
Indeed, Marlowe is quite shocking. Tamburlaine has conquered all he longs for. He falls ill, but continues to win battles, and dies encouraging his sons to rule the world in his glorious legacy. It is a most terrible example to set before London audiences. But it is quite enjoying.
I think you enjoyed it. I think you're ready to lay low your adversaries, Philadelphia.
My husband should take a lesson from the play and aid me to make him a Hugy man, not grumble and grutch to become a Knight of the Garter. Yet still, I would prefer he does not come to London often. So take heed, Tudorphiles. Add some 16th century sauce to your vocabulary with Hugy. Listen in next time, don't miss a word, and subscribe on YouTube. Help Tudor Time Machine become a Hugy presence on the web. Don't forget, give me a like.